Here we go. Now we're rolling. Hey everyone, nice to see you in the new space. Hopefully the audio levels are okay, but maybe someone can say something in chat. They look fine on my end, but we will see. Yes, I am a little late. Apologies. This is the first time I've streamed from here, and yeah, and there's always some random problem you have when streaming. It's kind of finicky sometimes, but hopefully everything sounds and looks pretty good. I'm really excited about today because I have plans to do something I have not done recently, or ever actually in a stream, which I am quite excited for, so stay tuned for that. I think that'll be fun. I'll do some Q&A as I always do because I'm in a new space and I hit 50,000 subscribers. Yay! So that's awesome. As always, the link to the next live stream will be in the, let's just make sure. It's a bit quiet. Okay. Yikes. Give me a second here. I don't want to mess around with things too much. Let's see. Maybe that's fixed things in terms of the stereo audio. Maybe someone can comment. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to try to move my mic a bit closer to me and point it at me a bit better, and hopefully that sounds better. Hopefully it's been fixed because I did switch the audio over to mono. Oh no. Only the left channel is working. Okay, I'm gonna just mess with this a little bit more. Let's see. Oh, fixed? Okay, great. No, that's good to hear. I guess, yeah, I'm still delayed. Okay, cool. So, great to see everyone as usual. If you're not already, consider following me on Twitter and Instagram. I always plug my social media because, yeah, it's a good place to stay in touch with the channel and just get in touch with me that isn't necessarily just YouTube, because YouTube, you know, is kind of congested because the channel gets bigger and bigger and it's hard to communicate with people. Which is why these live streams exist, honestly, because, well, it's a bit hard these days because the channel's got big to actually directly talk to people. And sorry, I'm always going to be looking a little off. That's because kind of looking at the chat, and my webcam is up here, so I'm looking at your face. Your face is the chat, though. But yeah, you know, these streams are a really good way to kind of just chat with people who watch the channel. I think they're pretty fun. As I said before, if you're just arriving, which you may be because I see there's some more people here, I'm going to do something I haven't done before on stream today. I'll test it out. We'll see if it actually works. But bear with me. I'll do the usual Q&A. And yeah, I'm also going to talk a bit about like what improved intercity transit could look like in North America and how impactful that would be. And then just we'll see where we end up. The drink of the day is ginger ale. I'm very excited for this. That's just a small can though, which is a little bit disappointing. I don't really want to leave my desk on my drink on the desk because I don't want to create a ring. So I guess I should have a coaster, but I don't. So yeah, let's get looking. I'll look through the chat, and then I'm going to get on to the thing I was saying I'm going to try that I haven't done before. And then maybe I'll do some Q&A, and then we'll talk some topics. So it should be pretty fun. And again, as I mentioned, link to the next stream is in the description of this video. So if you haven't set a reminder, maybe go do that so you don't miss the next stream. I alternate between 3 p.m. Toronto time and 8 p.m. Toronto time, sort of cater to people who are in Asia and people who are in Europe. Kind of alternate between the two since I'm awake either way. So let's quickly go through the chat. Indeed, the Reece Martin service today is behind schedule. I actually remember when my channel used to be called, I think, Reece Martin, before I created the second channel, which I should definitely be linking. I'll share it in the chat. Basically, I have a second channel at this point, which I use to post non-transit related stuff, but stuff that people who actually follow the channel might find interesting. I'm just gonna drop this here. I also have, oh darn that, let me paste this, and that's so annoying. Is there not an easy way for me to post 2 links without having a problem? Let's see, send link. I'm also posting the link to the Q&A for 50,000 subscribers. If you didn't watch the 50,000 subscriber video, it's good doing some updates and stuff in there, but I'm doing this Q&A and there's some other changes. Ooh, let's see. Okay, recommended bitrate. Oh, streaming can get a little annoying sometimes. What was I saying? Oh, oh, okay, that's a house centipede. It's a little scary. I don't like bugs. It's alarming, to say the least. Bear with me for a second. What am I gonna do? Let's try to... I feel like a bit all over the place today because this is just, yeah, I haven't streamed in here before. Ooh, so much going on. Let me send these links. One is for the forum for the Q&A. One is for the B channel. I created the B channel so I can talk about stuff that isn't just the main channel transit stuff, because I have other interests like technology and stuff, which if you are an OG, you followed the channel for a long time. It used to be a bit more multifaceted before I kind of fully committed to transit. Let's just give me a second here. Ah, darn it. Oh. Give me a second. Okay, what are we doing here? Let's go like this. There we go. Okay, so now that I've made sure the intruder has been released onto the balcony, it's crazy day. Crazy times, you know? Again, set your reminder for the next stream. Let me go through these, the chat. Things are a little crazy here. Yeah, I pinned the channel and the Q&A. So you have that now. Don't ask again. Let's see. Which big project are you most excited for in Toronto between the Eglinton Crosstown, the Ontario Line, and the Finch West LRT? Ontario Line for sure. It's got the most connections. It's starting to feel like, you know, when you have a connection at almost every other station, it feels like a proper big city subway line. So Ontario Line for sure. It's also longer than the Finch West Line, almost as long as Eglinton. Oh, my hair. And just a cool line. Automated, platform screen doors, catenary, all of it super interesting and unusual. What is that sound? Okay. And so I think it's just going to be super interesting to see that get built in Toronto, and I think it's going to kind of undoubtedly be the most modern metro line in North America when it opens. Okay, a bunch of people talking about the sound, which was sorted out. I tried to change the latency to be lower so that people there was less delay between when I spoke and when people heard me. It doesn't seem like that worked, but the internet quality is better, so maybe at least things will look a bit better. We'll see what happens. What's your opinion on the King of Prussia Mall, Norristown High-Speed Line spur? I've heard it's actually not that good because the ridership potential is not very high and the location of the station's not that great, so it's not that good. That's my impression. I'm not a total expert on Philadelphia, so yeah. What's your favorite train simulator on PC? I don't really use train simulators. I have Train Sim World, I think. Oh, this one bit of hair. And I played it before on the Discord server, but haven't played too many train simulators. Yeah, I just maybe I should get back into it. Maybe I should do it on stream. Let me know what you think in the chat. What's your thoughts on Sydney Trains becoming Australia's first zero emissions train network operator through the purchase of renewable energy certificates? That's good, but trains are already zero emissions. So yes, I know the electricity being purchased is zero emissions, and that's good. But yeah, it's good. But we need to get the grid cleaned up no matter what, so that it doesn't, you don't have to choose to buy renewable energy. Because if you think about it too, if they're buying renewables, that just means someone who maybe previously wasn't choosing to buy renewables is getting renewables. So yeah, or is not getting renewables. So not exactly ideal. Okay, wow, I am way down in the chat. It's time to catch up here. I don't have videos on the R211 subway cars. Unfortunately, I have not been in New York for some time. But when I am, I will film some. It's not actually a guitar. It's a bass. Should I pull it out? Let me know in the chat. Maybe I'll pull it out and show you folks. I'm not gonna play anything, but I can show you my bass. Just got off the metro. Very cool to hear. I did not, despite the fact that I was late, and some people were suggesting maybe I did. Should downtown Markham get a TTC subway station? No, I don't think so. You're mentioning though that is Markham dense enough to justify heavy rail? It already has heavy rail, so I think the Unionville GO station is that. Once I get to the bottom of the chat, I'm going to do this new thing. So hopefully this all goes well. Go over here. Cool. What LRVs do you think Calgary Transit will buy for the Green Line? I forget if they're even. I don't even think Siemens was an option. I don't know if it's going to be Siemens. But yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I wish they weren't low floor. I think it's a mistake to go with low floor for the Green Line, but that was the decision that was made. The Vancouver LRT video was 10 out of 10. Thank you so much. My first question is, do you have plans to cover water taxis like in Venice? I will definitely cover like water-based transit. I actually have a video planned in maybe the next month that talks about water-based transit. So yeah, definitely. I think it's super interesting. There's actually a lot of interesting, opportunities. What do you think the T needs to do to improve the most? I think better rolling stock, an expanded and densified network, maybe like a circular or orbital line. The regional rail has a lot of potential. There's tons of things. I think the rolling stock purchased from CRRC is probably not that great, unfortunately, even though it's new. It's good that it's new, but yeah, it's still problematic. The Green Line rolling stock is maybe my least favorite new rolling stock in the world. So yeah. Yep, this time would be good for Australians because you're in a similar time zone to Asia. What do you think of the Brooklyn X Queens? I think that's the Brooklyn Queens connector, like BQX. It's an interesting idea, but I think there's probably better things to build in New York than that project. There can be connections between Brooklyn and Queens, but probably as like a heavier rail. What are your thoughts on the brand new Guangzhou Metro Line 18? Their trains run at 160 kilometers per hour. Should we have more of these regional metro lines? I think regional metro lines are cool, but I don't think they're as good as just like a traditional RER style regional rail. You don't have the large trains. You tend to get less space. They're not built for that sort of service the same way true regional rail is. So that's my take. Though I did talk a bit about this sort of new style of regional rail in the Delhi RRTS video. I think the Indian suburban rail systems are super interesting, and they sort of differentiate for you what suburban rail probably should look more like. I mean, giant trains, huge platforms, maybe slightly less frequent, but capacity through massive trains and at great alignments. Grade separations are important though. I know you talked about convenience stores before, but don't you think that Shoppers Drug Mart is sort of like our version of Family Mart, since you can loan your Presto card there? It's an interesting comparison. For me, the problem with, and I think convenience stores are actually so important for creating a city where transit is usable, and I need to do more videos in that series because it is a super important one. It's basically like, and the point of the the transit ecosystem series is to talk about why is it that even in places in North America, more often the US and Canada, but even in places just generally that have good transit, what is it that differentiates the great places from the okay places? And the thing you see in places like Japan, where transit is just awesome, you know, S tier, if you will, is that they have all of these other services and cultural things and just all kinds of things that support people's use of transit. Having a Family Mart, for example, is something that you don't really appreciate, but being able to just walk down to the corner and get like food or get a lot of services makes it easier to access stuff without a car, where you don't have to necessarily drive to go to the post office or drive to go here and there. And yes, Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada is sort of like that. We have a post office in a lot of them and a lot of services and stuff, but it's not the same. First of all, there's way too few Shoppers Drug Marts, and the reason for that is because they are gigantic typically. They're trying to become like mini grocery stores, which is very different from Family Mart. Family Mart is a true like corner store, tiny space most of the time. I haven't been to one that's large. And the difference is that when you have a really small store, you can put it anywhere, and also it costs less to operate that store, which means you can have more of them, and you can sort of fit them into smaller spaces. Shoppers Drug Mart, you kind of only put a few in because they're so large, right? Also, Family Mart tends to have way better hours. It sucks that Shoppers Drug Mart typically closes 10, 12 p.m., which means that, you know, if you need something in the middle of the night and you can't drive to, say, a store in the suburbs that has it because you don't have a car, like myself, it becomes a little hard to get things. Literally, for me right now, if I wanted to get food at, I don't know, 2 a.m. for whatever reason, because sometimes people need food at 2 a.m. Sometimes you're editing a high-speed rail explained video that you need to get released at 9 a.m. about India, and you want to eat some food. It's pretty tricky when nothing is open, right? And you don't have a car, so you can't drive to the one place that is open. So, yeah, essentially, no, I don't think they're the same. There's a lot of things that would make a Family Mart style model in Canada better. But it would be less business friendly because it's so much easier to operate a few larger stores than tons of small ones, I think. So that's my take. Okay, I just got shot to the bottom of the chat because I scrolled down. Oh no, why did I do that? Let me scroll up. Oh god. Okay, I just saw something that was a little dark. Let me scroll back up. Why in your videos from 2019 is a kid narrating the video? I don't know what you're referring to, actually. Everyone's discussing what time it is, where they live. House centipedes, not centipedes. They look quite different. I'm very terrified of bugs, yes. But I didn't kill him. I released him onto the deck. I just didn't want to look like a bit of an imbecile, so I closed the camera off. So, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to vacuum them. He just wants to go outside, probably. Or maybe he'll be unhappy that he's outside because he's cold and doesn't get to eat all of... There's no bugs in here, so I don't know what he was eating. Oh, God. Rest in peace. No. He's alive. Don't worry. Okay. Yeah, people were losing it. We have over 100 viewers. That is so cool. I have been waiting for this moment when a live stream. Sorry, I'm just reaching over to grab my drink, ginger ale. If you weren't here already, I've been waiting for the moment. We have over 100 concurrent viewers on live stream, and we did it! Yay! Success. I'm going to take a sip of this and remind you to consider following me on social media. Consider supporting on Patreon or via YouTube memberships for glorious early release videos, and to get your name at the end of videos, and to get a spot on the Patreon Metro Map, which is now also the YouTube member Metro Map, and to get other exclusive stuff. Or just consider sharing my videos, because that also helps, and I appreciate it a ton. Fun thing about my setup right now is I actually have a standing desk. So let me see if I can just... So now you get to travel up and down, but now I also get to stand, and I can be much more emotive on the stream because I'm standing. So this is all fun. Could you do a video on when rail stations are overbuilt? It's an interesting idea. Let me make a note. I know people hate when I type because I have a clicky keyboard. What's the timing on the VIA units again? I think the VIA trains, the new ones, are going to be in service sometime next year. The intruder, indeed. Do you think Regina will ever get LRT? It's going to be a long time until that happens, I think, unfortunately. I don't see your other channel on your channels list. 10 seconds. I thought it was. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm going to check. Yep, it's the first channel. Reece Martin, that's it. Let's say something recently reminded me that maybe I should have never renamed the channel to RMTransit. It used to be Reece Martin. That used to be the name of the channel. People were like, oh, no one will find your channel because it doesn't have transit in the name. So I renamed it to RMTransit, but now no one knows my name. So yes, my name is Reece Martin. RMTransit. There you go. That's just a public service announcement. I'm still scrolling through the chat here, but once I get through it, I'm going to do that thing I've been saying I'm going to do that I haven't done on stream before. That isn't that crazy, but it's a little crazy and a little fun. So yeah, we're gonna see. I also, I have some other ideas. How do they maintain the grass on grassy tram lines? I think the point is that the trams constantly passing over kind of keep the grass in check. The system in Toronto has watering built in, and so I think that's basically how it works. Can you do a Halifax transit video? Please answer, you're the best. Oh, wow, that's so touching. You know what? I do need to talk about Halifax at some point, so I'll make a note of that. I've been saying that for a long time, but it will come eventually. What's your favorite subway station in Toronto? I said this before a few times, but I have a lot of favorites, but Davisville might be because I just think the context is cool. I especially love how at the north end of the platform, you've got the giant concrete wall, like a retaining wall. It's kind of cool. Very nerdy, I know, I'm sorry. Not sure when they go in service. Oh, I see. Also, do you have plans to cover Indonesian high-speed rail? Yep, eventually at some point. I want to cover all this stuff. Like, as long as the channel is doing well, I'm getting views, I'm growing, I'm able to sustain things. I want to cover the entire world eventually. That's the goal. Hello from India. Hello to you too. I live in a country with about 25,000 people. About 18,000 are in one sprawling town. I don't know about a train service, but a bus service could be pretty good. Waiting for you to do a video on the Mumbai Suburban Railway. That thing is fascinating, definitely fascinating, but I gotta space it out. I can't do videos about a single country besides Canada, kind of repeatedly. Do you have any thoughts about Africa's public transit? I actually have a video planned that is partially written, so it should be coming in the next while. If my second channel gets over 1,000 subscribers, that would be deeply exciting. Though it's not so simple. You can't just get 1,000 and monetize. You also have to get a lot of views. Well, you actually have to get watch hours, but that's not really the goal of the second channel. It's more to just make videos about stuff that isn't on the main channel. I have not seen the Coventry Very Light Rail Tram project, but okay, I say I haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure I have seen it. The idea, when people start talking about things like very light rail, I don't know, I get concerned because that sounds like a bit of a gadget bomb. Maybe not a bit, maybe a lot of a gadget bomb. Let's keep scrolling down. Halifax BRT is misguided at this point. Interesting. Was line 4 going to be a much longer line than it is? The plan has always been for it to be longer. It's just sort of that what was built was like the first phase. So that's the status of line 4. A lot has changed since 2013. We have the new streetcars. Well, we have a lot of the new streetcars. We have the TYSSE. We have major construction on Eglinton and Finch, getting closer to finished. We have way more GO service. We have the Up Express, which is awesome. Like, that's basically a new rapid transit line, frequent all-day service, except for right now. Come on, Metrolinx, let's go. Actually need frequency. It's amazing. Apparently, the reason for not operating more service is that there's not enough passengers. Have you heard? Not enough passengers because you're not operating enough service, right? It's a correlation. It's not because it's the problem is that there are not passengers because you are not operating frequent service. That is how these things work. So hearing that from a transit agency, a little concerning. But yeah, tons has changed in Toronto. Why did dislike for historic tram routes? I don't dislike them unless, you know, they're North American style ones where the historic tram is the only tram. Please show us your base, please. Okay. Okay. I'll do it after I've done my sort of interjection. I'll show off the base. When is the Val video coming? It was kind of missing in the mini Metro video. I don't know. I think that, like, if I make videos super long, then people won't watch them. So I had to kind of slice it out. I'm making a note to remind myself, but the Val video is it's in my plans. Basically, the way I make videos is I have a rough plan, but if I come up with a more interesting idea, like, say, talking about Barcelona Line 9, I just interject and make that video first, and then the videos I plan to make get pushed into the future. I would say half to 2/3 of the videos I end up making are ones that I come up with. I'm like, oh, this would be interesting to talk about. And so videos that I say I'm going to do, it's not that I'm not going to do them. It's just that they're getting pushed back and back. And I get so many requests for videos that there is a very long list of videos I need to make. So a Val video will come, but it's just not, you know, going to come super soon. It'll come. Why is low floor not good? Low floor is not good because it's less accessible. It's sort of a trendy type thing that I don't think is actually, it's the trend, but I don't think it's actually the best type of train, right? So as I said, less accessible because you have the giant wheel wells for the bogies, more expensive to maintain because it's more mechanically complex, lower capacity because, again, of the wheel wells coming in and because of the fact that you have less standing room. So all of that, and I just don't think that's worth the supposed benefits, which I think can all be replicated with high floor, especially in a city that already has a pretty big high floor network, right? There's a lot of economies of scale to be found. I don't think Go has the potential to expand to every major city in Ontario, and I don't think that should be the goal, but I think more London-style services could make sense, but it should be called something different, maybe like Go Link or something like that to denote that it's a long-distance service. I've talked about in previous videos, but something I really like that Sydney does is that they have their differentiation between, like, New South Wales Trainlink and Sydney trains, and the Trainlink trains are very similar to Sydney trains, as perhaps long-distance GO trains would be very similar, at least externally, to regular GO trains. But and they could literally be the older sets, again, as in Sydney. The reason that makes sense is because it's less stressful to have less stops, right? So using the older sets for those kind of intercity services makes sense. Plus, you can, as a refurbishment, you can redo the interiors to make them a bit friendlier. You know, maybe add a cafe car and add some more comfortable seating and add luggage racks and things like that, and then use them for long distance services. So I think that would actually be a great approach. Oh my goodness, so many comments in the chat. I'm gonna get past this and talk about the thing I was planning on talking about it, but I just slowly work my way through here. You know, if you could revive any canceled transit project, what would it be? Eglinton subway in Toronto, without a doubt. But there's lots of projects like it, you know, across the world. Tons of ones in New York, especially, you know, with the New Works plan and stuff. So many projects. I can only, that's just like my Toronto answer. I think I could probably have an answer for almost every city. Vancouver water taxi, it does have water taxis, and they are quite good. Let's just, I don't like, let's say, comments that are just antagonistic, so I'm just going to remove this one. Should Line 4 in Toronto be built to join both arms of Line 1 and reduce congestion? Of course, yeah, that's one of the things I said was a priority in my Toronto Transit Explained video, so I recommend going and watching that. I'm not going to make a dedicated video for the Addis Ababa light rail, but it will be mentioned in my Africa video. I just don't think, part of the problem with covering certain locations, and this is why it would be great to get in touch with me or join Patreon if you are in one of these locations, or if you have a lot of good photos and stuff of these locations, is that, for example, my India video I made today, I would have loved to include more construction images, etc. The problem is that as a YouTube creator who doesn't want to get demonetized and doesn't want my videos taken down, I have to use photos and videos that I have like license to use. At least that's sort of my moral code, is I'm not going to use stuff that isn't freely licensed to make my YouTube videos. Which means that I inevitably tend to look at Wikimedia Commons, which is the Wikipedia media collection, basically, which is super, super great for some places, and then it's super not great in other places. For India, it was just hard to find a lot of images, and I think the same thing is true for a lot of African rail systems, sadly. There's so many rail systems that have actually been constructed in Africa in the past couple decades, and a lot of them are super interesting. And I would probably love to make a video dedicated to the each individual one, or more of the individual lines. But the problem is, if I can't find photos, it becomes very boring and it becomes very hard to make a compelling video. And since the bar is like slightly lower, since it's not high-speed rail, so it was harder to justify the way I was able to justify today's India video. I wasn't able to easily make those. Now, that's not to say I don't ever want to make them. Once I can travel, I would love to make so many videos and actually travel to these places and film them and make videos, with actual video of systems. And that's something I always try to do. It's just hard when you don't have access to travel and you don't have access to people who live in a location and who can provide high quality images. So that's sort of my justification. Will you ever do a video on transit in the smallest countries? And by the way, yeah, I said this in my 50,000 subs video, and it sort of applies here too, is, I'm sorry, I get so many messages, and that includes in the chat here, and I do have to skip sometimes. It's the same with when I get messages on Instagram, Twitter, and Discord. It's not because I don't care, like I seriously do care, and if I could reply to every message, I would. It's just not practical. When you get to a certain size, you're just overwhelmed with emails and messages and the like, and I am, quite literally. I open my inbox on Instagram or Twitter, and I have 20, 30 messages, every day, new ones, and it's just not practical because I don't want to reply with a short, useless reply. I would rather not reply than reply something that I think is dismissive or isn't super useful. And so I hate to say it, but that is one of the benefits of like YouTube memberships, etc. Is it's easier to reply to comments, etc. But also it's the benefit of coming to one of these streams. I am definitely going to reply to a lot more comments here than I do via direct messages. The best way to contact me, if you do want to get into touch, is email. But, if it's a minor thing, probably a comment or chat messages is better. We ever do a video on transit in the smallest countries in the world? Definitely. Yeah, that's a super interesting topic. Though you didn't mention some like Singapore. I know Singapore's not tiny, but it's still small. If you're interested in the Waterfront streetcar extension in Toronto, stay tuned. There's going to be an interesting segment of this video about it. Places drink to the side. Yeah, the CRRC cars, they look decent, but if they're unreliable, I think that's the most important thing to focus on, right? The reliability of public transit vehicles is totally critical. Why do you ignore any or all mentions of the Isle of Man? Do you think the place is a myth or something? No, not at all. I don't think, if I haven't replied to a comment about the Isle of Man, which I don't think I've gotten that many. I think when people comment about a place a lot, there's certain places that people definitely like bring up a lot. I notice the Isle of Man hasn't really felt like a place that people have brought up a ton. It also is a relatively small place, so I don't think it's a myth. I've actually been there for the GP, actually. That's going to be a bit unconventional for me to say. Someone already asked about Halifax Transit, so our city has a 2 million metro area and a horrible bus line. That's unfortunate. I've always been curious who was the other dude doing the voiceovers on this channel for a bit, like the Montreal stuff. So I used to have someone else who worked on the channel with me, but unfortunately, because of, say, internet stuff, it's amazing the drama that is created on the internet sometimes. And basically, there was a certain incident that happened that they were really uncomfortable with, and they basically said, don't want to work on the channel anymore because I don't want to get dragged into this stuff. And so that's the situation, unfortunately. Thoughts on rail plans and current system in Dallas-Fort Worth? You know, it's hard to be super happy about it, but TexRail is cool and the Silver Line is cool. I just wish things were better integrated. Like TexRail and the Silver Line, shouldn't they really just be one system and multiple lines? And Trinity, what is it? The Trinity, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. It's like Trinity something Express, Trinity Railway Express, something like that. The line from Dallas to Fort Worth, that should just be flirts too. I don't know why it isn't. Hopefully that's the plan, is to convert it eventually, because it's a decent like hourly service. Whew. The real difference. Japanese convenience stores are nice. You don't want to stay more than 1 minute in a convenience store here. Depends. I don't think Shoppers Drug Marts are terrible, but yeah, a normal Indian train is around 800 meters long. Well, that is crazy. Okay, once I get close to the bottom, I am going to actually. You know what? Actually, no. I have to try to get close to the bottom, or I'm going to get totally lost in here and not be able to cover anything. I'm going to try to fly through this. Oh my goodness, a lot of messages. Okay, I'm gonna have to bypass a lot. Go flirt with it. A funicular could be interesting in Hamilton for sure. Why do you pretend Wales doesn't exist? Okay, not sure what the deal with this is. Toronto's the only Canadian city where we still have 24-hour Shoppers Drug Marts. Not sure about that, but I don't see many 24-hour ones around. Am I early? Nope, the stream started at 8:05, though I was a little late, unfortunately. Someone's asking if a certain summit is my homeboy. Unfortunately not. Let's just say that. Okay, so you're being hidden because you are spamming the chat. High-speed trains, high-speed train networks in Africa, again, will be mentioned in my Africa video, so stay tuned. What about the interurban style light rail systems connecting smaller communities in southern Ontario? Definitely something I'll mention for like my rural transit video, which is coming. How about Reece Transit? Changing the channel name at this point is we're probably beyond that point. Do you think smaller cities like Windsor and London could have some form of urban rail? Probably. But I think good buses probably make more sense for cities of those sizes. Takes the soundbite of me saying it's a good idea that I support like light rail in these cities. Yikes! How can subways to industrial parks like 2S West extension support high ridership? I don't know that they necessarily do, but when you have a high ridership line, an extension like that could, by its very nature, also get high ridership because, well, it's convenient for all those existing riders to travel to these new places. Favorite transit line in Canada? Evergreen Line probably, though it's really an extension, but yeah, I guess Millennium Line then. Can you talk about Jakarta? I'll definitely talk about Jakarta at some point. The MRT's awesome there. I love the design of the trains. I know they're from Japan. They're really awesome. Does anyone still make high floor buses? Well, a lot of coach buses are still high floor. I didn't know the Macau light rail had closed for 180 days. That's crazy. You should do a New Brunswick transit video, perhaps, but those systems aren't super big or super interesting in my opinion. They're just bus systems. Small transit systems? Yeah, I will talk about more small transit systems in the future. Thoughts on a North Shore SkyTrain proposal? I talked about it in my Transit Explained Vancouver, but I'll do another video, hopefully, about it soon, so stay tuned. Suggestions on improving Montreal commuter rail: buy up the tracks or convert stuff to REM. I think both are interesting opportunities, but yeah, buying up the tracks is probably the cheaper approach, or building new tracks adjacent to the existing tracks. There will definitely be coverage of Perth at some point. I just haven't got around to it. I don't know if there is a timetable for Texas Central construction. Caltrain electrification coming along is super exciting. Zurich has got a really cool tram network. It's something I'll definitely cover in a explained video at some point. Could full articulated double-decker BRT? Double-decker BRT? Well, I think we're We're getting into fantasy land here. You guys need to bring back Andy Byford in New York, definitely. How convenient and useful do you think the Edmonton LRT is? I think it's just about what it connects. I think connecting the airport would be super useful, which is why I mentioned it in my recent video. But just kind of continuing to expand it and feed it with frequent bus service is, you know, the best way to make it more frequent and useful. I think it's already fairly useful, and I think with the Valley Line connecting more destinations, it will be more useful. But I think, you know, airport, major destination, let's connect it up. Also, you know, connecting major, like a lot of the major destinations, stadiums, universities, hospitals are being connected up, and I think those should be the priority. How feasible would it be to turn a low floor system to high floor? I think it's very feasible, but it really depends on the infrastructure. If it's underground, it's a lot harder, right? Next major streetcar line in Toronto. I made a video a while ago about streetcars and what I would do with them in Toronto, so I think go check that one out. I talked about some potential lines. I don't think I'm really going to talk about taxis as a form of public transportation. Not that I necessarily think they can't be, but it's just kind of out of my wheelhouse. Vatican City might get a video at some point, maybe. Should Vancouver build rail to Abbotsford and Chilliwack? Well, there already is rail there. It just needs to be for passengers. Parallel tracks for passengers could be a really cool option. I think like a flirt-style service, hourly frequencies could be really cool. What do you think of the Barcelona Metro? It's going to get an explained video, so stay tuned for that. Will you talk about ferry lines? Yes, that's in my plans. Metro Tunnel and Cross River Rail. Talked about them in my respective demystified videos, so go check them out. Not really sure either of them is actually needed, but they're being built, so they're cool. What do you think of the Mexico Tren Maya that they're going to build? It's a very interesting project. It'll probably get a video at some point, but again, one of those ones I have limited images, etc. of. Oh, cool to hear that there's a channel with free videos about Indian construction called Footage Democracy. Interesting. A lot of tiny countries in the world have very inexpensive daily unlimited bus passes. Interesting to hear. Okay, so unfortunately, if you keep sending the same message to the chat, I will hide your messages. I'm sorry, but it just takes away from other people's ability to send messages, right? So, for April Fools 2022, I need to think of a video to do for April Fools in the future. So stay tuned for that. I'm getting close to the bottom, which means I'll be able to talk about my other topics soon. So let's continue flying through this. Okay. Gondola lines being constructed around Paris? Yeah, I have heard about them. They're quite interesting. And gondolas in general are a pretty popular transit solution as like a last mile connector these days. And they're interesting. The algorithm dropped you right into my live stream. Well, how cool is that? I live in Peterborough and honestly so excited about the VIA line making its way through. Yeah, no, that will be really cool. What's the craziest comment or reply you got this last week? Oh my goodness, I get so many crazy ones. Maybe one saying that I don't know, I don't like streetcars or something like that. Or maybe saying I won't talk about certain places for some reason. The integration between eBART and Third Rail BART is very tight. Yeah, I don't think eBART was ever a good thing, but this is a video for another time. Congrats on the move. Thank you so much. Do you ever think Statler will move past first base? Not sure what that's supposed to mean. Vancouver has 24-hour shoppers. There you go. How did you enter the world of transit? What was the initial spark? Riding the Vancouver SkyTrain and being able to look out their front window at the rails. Automated rail has power there, folks. Why does Winnipeg not have urban rail yet? You know, they just haven't decided to build it. Thanks for the good coverage on Australasia. Thank you. Is SkyTrain's capacity adequate? People per hour? Different lines have different capacities. The Expo and Millennium are supposedly about 25,000 people per direction per hour, and the Canada line is 15,000. I think it's adequate as long as Vancouver keeps building new lines, which should generally be city's approach. ONR passenger rail would be cool. What do you think of Teleferico of La Paz, Bolivia? That's actually going to get a dedicated video. Same with the Medellin transit system, so stay tuned. Is Marin County too sparsely populated to justify BART? You would be surprised how little population you need to support rail as long as you build in a way that's supportive to rail. That's what I'll say. What do you think small towns should do when they're lucky to have 1 hour local bus service? Where they are lucky to have 1 hour local bus service. I think you just gotta build more density, centralize, build transit supportive development, and then slowly ramp up your service. Will you do a video on the Madrid Metro? Definitely eventually, but not too soon because I am doing Barcelona first. Do you have plans to cover Kinbalu Rail? The only one in the entire of Borneo? Maybe at some point. I'm not super familiar with it. Do you think REM East cannibalizes ridership from the Green Line? I don't think so, and it doesn't have tons of capacity, so it can't really, so I think it's fine. As I explained in X video. What do you think of the Quebec City tram? I'm actually going to do a video on that soon, so I'm going to bypass this question, but stay tuned for the video. Should eating be allowed on public transit? I think it should be avoided because people tend to leave messes, and I think messy public transit, there are certain things that will just destroy your transit, and I think if it's messy, that's one of those things. It's interesting traveling between Toronto and let's just say other cities in the area and seeing the difference in how clean transit is. I tend to feel like the places where transit is successful, the transit is clean. And I think that eating is one of those things that is terrible because it leads to very dirty transit. Now, on long distance trains and stuff, it's okay. And I mean, I don't think we should be fining people for eating, but I think we should be heavily discouraging people from eating because it just leads to messes, and messes lead to transit that people don't want to sit down on and ride. So that's my thinking. Okay, I'm almost at the bottom. What's your opinion on the Calgary LRT? It's a cool system that should also go to the airport because it's so easily extended there. I think build the Center City Tunnel, and I think Green Line needs to be high floor. That's my thinking. I will definitely do a video about the Rotterdam Metro, but it's just one of those things that's in the queue, let's just say. But I think, you can learn so much from all the videos and about different countries, and I think that's always been the point of RMTransit. I didn't start making international videos, but that's not because I wasn't interested in it. So I think the point of this channel is if you're watching this channel, you're a transit globalist. Let's just say that. You're interested in transit around the world, and you don't just care about your own country. You can see the flaws in your own country and the things that other countries do better, and you want to replicate what those other countries do better. That's why I make tons of videos about all kinds of places around the world, because I know Canada does some things great for transit and we do some things terribly, and we have lots to learn from literally all over the world. Every country I've made a video about, we probably have something to learn from somewhere in that country. I know that's a bit of a controversial take, but that's my thinking. The Vancouver SkyTrain is like a legalized citywide roller coaster. That's an interesting take. You might be right. There are some sections that are pretty crazy. What rail systems do you think inspired you views the most on transit? The SkyTrain, of course. I wouldn't say maybe the most, but the SkyTrain is definitely up there. I'm going to pause for a second since, wow, I've been streaming for almost an hour, which is crazy, and say link to the next stream is in the description below, so set a reminder so you can come chat in the next stream. We can talk about news, etc. At the same time, consider supporting the channel via Patreon or YouTube memberships or super chats or anything like that to help me make more videos and better videos in the future. And consider sharing, liking, subscribing, follow me on social media. It all helps. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling down. Should there be... Okay, the annoying thing with the chat is if you're not at the bottom and you scroll a little bit, you get shot to the bottom. I'm almost there though, so... Odd time to do a live stream since both the Leafs and Raptors are playing right now. Surprise, I'm not actually a big sports person, so the thought didn't even occur to me that they were playing right now. And to be honest, the RMTransit, based on the viewership, it's a lot bigger than just Toronto, and I think that's always been my goal. It's about creating an international community that cares about Toronto a bit more maybe than other places, but we're international. So I'm not too worried about if there's games going on at the same time. There won't be next time. Do you think it's really good for ridership and inclusiveness to arbitrarily ban the transport of one popular local fruit on board the Singapore MRT? I know what local fruit that is, and I'm happy it's banned from the Singapore MRT. Would you say Toronto's groups of buildings like Yonge Eglinton, Davisville Village Centre, what would you say? I'm not sure what your question is. It seems like you're asking if they're TOD, in which case I would say yes, they are transit-oriented development. MARTA is the Atlanta Metro. Yep. What can Canadian cities learn more from, BART or Washington Metro? I think there's bits of both we can learn about. What Tokyo area Kanto transit projects are you most interested or excited about? This is a really good question, and my answer is going to be so frustrating to you, but the Chuo Shinkansen, which connects to Tokyo. So anything other than SkyTrain? Yeah, like every system, basically. That's why I like talking about all kinds of systems, you know? If I wanted, yes, Durian. If I wanted to spend time, I could just, I could go through every city and tell you something that I think is interesting or something I think we could learn from. Literally every city. And that's why I make videos about different cities, because I think that the best metro system has not been created, but it is some hybrid of every other metro system in the world that takes the best elements of those systems, right? So yeah, every system I visit, I learn something from. Is Viva a success or a failure? I'm leaning on the failure side. It's encouraged some development, but I think as a transit service, it's without a doubt, I would say it's a failure. Maybe parts of it are not a failure, but as a whole, I would say it's a failure. Yeah, harsh take, I know. It doesn't have to be a failure forever. It can be fixed. Other than the Chuo Shinkansen. There's some talk of expanding some of the Tokyo Metro lines. Like they said they weren't going to do that, and then suddenly they said they might do it. So I think that would be probably the most interesting thing. I'm trying to remember what other interesting projects there are. Tokyo's rail network is so developed that there's not that much being built, but yeah, I would say those Tokyo Metro extensions, which I forget which lines. There's like 3 I think that are planned, but I think they would be interesting. Do you have a video that talks about pros and cons of high-speed trains in lower density places? Not really, but also, I'm not sure I would say Southern Ontario is that low density. It's kind of, density is this thing that you sort of can bin, right? If you take a big space and you draw a certain line through it, or if you select a certain subset of that space, it's amazing how you can get like a pretty dense section of that space, like a certain subspace of that space that is really high density. You know, Canada, it looks very low density, but if you look at the Quebec City-Windsor corridor and you kind of just take that bit, it's really high density. And that's actually all that really matters for, fueling a rail service, because, it doesn't matter what the density is near Hudson's Bay or whatever. So I think that's an interesting thing to bring up. Yeah, I think those Tokyo Metro expansions will be pretty interesting. So I'm at the end of the chat, which, that was a lot of work. I'm going to start talking about something I think is quite interesting shortly. But I said I would show you guys the base, so I guess I'll show that to you. I'm going to close my camera for a total of like 20 seconds. So warning ahead of time. I won't do it to you again without telling you. Southwestern Ontario is world-class dense. There you go. Speaking like a true expert, density is all relative, you could say. That's a very good point to bring up. If you didn't watch today's video, by the way, folks, if you're watching the stream, definitely consider watching it. I actually agree the Namboku line should be separated from the Mita line. That's a good point. But yeah, watch today's video if you haven't. Watch the Tokyo video if you haven't, because Tokyo is so interesting, and it is a massive city with a massive rail network, and it is so cool. So Tokyo is definitely worth talking about. Patna is building 32 kilometers of metro, they're choosing 25 kV AC. I think if it's above ground, which I'm imagining it probably is, because a lot of metro systems in India are, then 25 kV AC is not necessarily the worst thing. I did mention Patna in the India high-speed rail video, though, so... Are you excited about the Green Line in Calgary? Again, excited, but I wish it was high floor. I think it would be better if it was high floor. So yeah, I'm going to go grab my base and I will show you it. I will put it back. I will talk about this transit news item and then maybe I'll do some Q&A and then I'll wrap up, but I'm not going to wrap up too soon. So yeah, 1 second. We're back. 10 seconds. Okay. Let's just say I was living in a house beforehand, and 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 since I was living in a house, playing this bass on the amp I have sitting back there was not as much of an issue. Now it is. I mean, it's not that loud, but it's still kind of loud, so it's unfortunate. I'll put this away now. Okay, so now time to talk about quickly respond to a few more comments. I don't think monorails tend to be mass transit alternatives. Favorite light rail system? Probably one of the Stadtbahns in Germany. I'm not sure which one. Frankfurt U-Bahn is kind of interesting. How extensively have you traveled the US? I would say pretty extensively. I've been to, I think, every state. I've been to like most of the big cities. A lot. Let's just say a lot. I have family who lives in the United States, so like many Canadians. Val or Ansaldo Breda Metro? Ansaldo Breda Metro. I actually really like the design of the Hitachi Rail India. Italy Metro. I don't know why I said India. I guess I'm thinking of India today because of my video. Headphones for bass. Yes, it's possible. I don't strike you as a bassist. Oh, it's too bad. It's all about the bass. Perhaps it is. Wow, we're close to peak viewership. You know, if you're watching the stream, share it to your friends. Maybe we can get it to like 120 concurrent viewers. That would be kind of cool. I once saw someone play Sweet Home Alabama in public in downtown Toronto. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, headphones are an option. I know. I know. But I don't love wearing headphones. I'm not wearing headphones right now, right? Actually got speakers for my setup now. So I'm editing on speakers, which is kind of nice actually. The stereo separation is fine. So it's all good. So I'm going to do the thing I was mentioning I was going to do. And then maybe we can do some Q&A about the channel, the move, 50,000, all of these things, future things and the like. There's some questions in the chat right now. I will respond to them. But first, let me quickly go through this thing. So I haven't looked at this yet, but there is a new tram line being built in Toronto in the Portlands area. It's a streetcar line, but tram is a better term, I think. And I'm going to actually look at it. I haven't looked at this yet, so I'm going to look at it with you folks live. You should be able to see it in this area of the screen. And I'm literally just going to scroll through. It won't be that long, but I think we can kind of look at this together and see how it looks, because I think it's interesting. So let's see if I can just kind of zoom in here. So this is the area we're talking about. So right now the streetcar goes, I don't know. See, I'm a noob at using OBS, so I don't think my cursor is visible, but essentially on the left side of the screen you have the existing streetcar network, and then basically the rest of it going kind of across and then south. That's all new. So it's quite interesting to see this this new section of streetcar being built. I'm definitely going to cover it when it actually gets constructed, but it might be a while. Let's look. There's some actual alignment maps and stuff. So here you can see there's kind of several areas. So there's area 1, area 2A, area 2B, and area 2C. So area 1 is by the TTC, and then the other parts are by Waterfront Toronto, which is the waterfront organization who is in charge of building waterfront infrastructure in Toronto. Did a video about Toronto's waterfront mega projects where I talked about it a bit, so go check it out. But yes, this first section is really interesting by Union Station, because it's actually going to have a new Union Station streetcar station. If you haven't been to Toronto, basically the streetcars enter a tunnel and go into Union Station. And right now the platform at Union Station is a giant semicircle, or it's almost a full circle, because the streetcars use loops to turn around. So the streetcars stop and they're like curved like this. So the new station is going to be massively upgraded so that there's way more capacity. Basically what they're going to do is they're going to extend the sides straight down, and then you're going to have like 4 platforms like this. So instead of having the curve on the top, the platforms go from here to the sides, and there'll be 2 tracks on both sides. That way streetcars can bypass one another. It's a little complicated, I know. I should probably make a dedicated video on it. In fact, it is crazy that I haven't. So oh, you folks make me think of all the most interesting most interesting video ideas. Let me go like this and close some tabs here I don't need open. Okay. But yeah, no, it should be super interesting. So here's some of what the actual alignments of the system look like. If you've been to Toronto at all, you know that on the waterfront, the streetcar is next to the road, which is next to like a walking path / cycling path. What I like about this is it seems like they've improved the distinction from place to place. Right now, one of the problems is that it's basically all a giant hard surface. There's no clear distinction between the streetcar and the road and the walking path, etc. And what that means is a lot of people will like walk in front of streetcars accidentally, not necessarily getting hit, but streetcar honks. It's not a great situation. Or people will walk on the bike path, etc. What I like at least about this render is it looks like they're trying to differentiate those different spaces a bit more, which I think is positive to see. So yeah, I think this is good. I like the passive water capture and stuff, the bioswale, all of this is nice. There's also a picture here of the streetcar portal, which maybe I can zoom in on. Let's see if I can I'll zoom in more. It's gonna look terrible, but you know, that's never stopped us, has it? That streetcar portal looks pretty cool. I will say, I like that we're actually trying to do things like this that look nice. So, okay, center this in the screen. Cool. Let's look at the rest. So this is again these various different sections of the alignment. I'm gonna skip by. This is what I'm sort of talking about. You can see how the different areas are not that well distinguished. So it's really easy for someone to sort of walk mindlessly from the streetcar area to the biking area to the walking area. And by putting like planters in the way in between them, that's actually something you see in Vancouver a lot. I think it distinguishes them better. Look at this. Okay, it's just like a sidewalk. It's not too transit oriented here, so I'm not going to spend too much time looking at this. More street design stuff, which is interesting. I mean, I do find this stuff fascinating. I'm just not going to dwell on it a ton. These are the new bridges that Toronto is getting in the kind of waterfront Portlands area. Okay, I need to shrink this down a bit. Let's go like that. These bridges look awesome. I really like them. So I'm excited for that. You can see what they might look like in winter, and it looks like this one is yellow, which is unusual. This is super fascinating. So if you know anything about Toronto, there's the Cherry streetcar line. If you don't know about it, look at Cherry Street in Toronto. You'll see what I'm talking about. Basically, it stops in a loop right now because Toronto streetcar lines end in loops because they need to use a loop to turn around. But you can see this is basically about, so the waterfront line is going to go across Queen's Quay. That's how it's pronounced, not Queen's Quay. And it's going to go down south into the Portlands, which means that there's like an obvious connection to be made at Cherry Street for the network. And so this is talking about like, how do we make that connection? And it is super interesting. So, wow, it's really fascinating. So one of these alignments, this green one, oh, wow, there's so much in here. Okay. So we actually have the Ontario line in here, which is interesting. That's the new subway line that will be right near here. Cherry Station would be cool. I hope to see that in the future, but because this is Cherry Street, that's where Cherry Station would be. But what you can see is you have the GO tracks, which are sort of off to the left of the darker vertical line that you sort of see. Let's see if I can get over there. It's hard to do this. It's sort of that dark vertical line, that's the Ontario line. These are the GO tracks. The horizontal stuff is the streetcar alignment. So this is a complicated place because you have the mainline rail, which via GO, you have Ontario line subway, and then you have streetcar that has to go underneath. And so there's 3 alignments, it looks like. One of these alignments takes the street, which I don't like because then you have mixed traffic for like a tiny portion of the route. doesn't seem ideal. The other two look like they dig new tunnels, which is cool. One of them goes straight and one of them sort of bows to the east, and I think that's to avoid the Cherry Street tower, which they mention on this diagram, which is a interlocking tower. It's kind of cool. Scroll down. Some talk. So this is basically the development in the adjacent area, which is pretty interesting to see. It looks like kind of a residential building right against the rail, which is super cool. You can see right here. Lots of trees, though it doesn't look like this right now. Okay, so this is interesting. You can see what the tunnel portal would look like to the east side of the interlocking tower that you can sort of see on the screen there. This is really cool looking. This is sort of showing where the alignment would go. So this would give the streetcar fully dedicated alignment the whole length. And I think that's critical. I think we should not be building new mixed traffic streetcar. Public realm design, which is interesting. Just skipping through this stuff. So this is the stormwater management facility. It's kind of cool building. Some development around Cherry Street, and this is kind of east of the Quayside site, where wow, this is a super long presentation. I'm going to try to go a bit faster through this, but this is adjacent to where Google was going to do that smart city sidewalk labs project. So this is all text, not super interesting. This is draft stuff. Streetcar, cool. Oh, cool renders. So you can sort of see the streetcar line runs along the east of the road here. Okay, some pictures. Just skipping the ones that aren't. So this is cool. Greenway for the, they refer to it as LRT. If you live in Toronto, you will learn to hate LRT because it is a term that is so abused all the time. It's used to describe anything and everything. When something is good, it's LRT. When something is bad, it's something else. Since this streetcar has cool grass, it's an LRT. If it didn't, it would be a streetcar, and I find it very funny. But anyways, yeah, this is super interesting. I like that we're doing green track. If you saw my Eglinton video where I checked out the Eglinton LRT in Toronto, you would see that in maybe the first case in North America, like in a modern sense, we have LRT green track, which looks nice. You should go check that out if you haven't seen it. It's cool. It's cool that we're doing it on the streetcars too now. I love that. I want to see way more of it because green track is one of those things that even if you don't like trams or streetcars or whatever, you can't deny it looks cool and it's awesome and it helps water filtration and water management. It's just a nice thing. It's one of those things that even a tram hater can't help but smile at. So these are some alignment things. I'm just going to skip through them. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so this is kind of. I think this is showing this is showing the placeholder for where streetcars will be put later. That's good planning. As I mentioned in my Vancouver video, you could see here's the streetcar or LRT as they're calling it here being installed, which is cool. This is another detailed view of the area close to the south end of Cherry Street. It's talking about the type of trees. It's not something I ever thought we'd be discussing on this channel, but anyways, this is showing different streetscapes possible, which is cool to see. They're thinking about this stuff, which is good. It seems like they've acknowledged that differentiating how things look is important. I think that's what's great about green track is people will actually figure out that it's only for streetcars, and also biking on grass is less of an issue. So I just think generally it's a pretty good move. This is super interesting. So this sort of shows you what the connection point would look like between the Cherry Street line and, sorry, I got to scroll this over, between the Cherry Street line and the line that runs on Queens Quay, though I think it changes street names. So you can sort of see this part is the east-west part on Queens Quay, and then the part here is the part on Cherry Street. So it's going to be a full three-way junction, which is cool because it means that streetcars coming from Union could go up Cherry Street if they want to serve the Distillery District, which is kind of cool. Okay, part of me likes the idea of having streetcars kind of serve the waterfront area just in a dedicated fashion, even if that means some extra service. Especially since the Distillery District isn't currently getting the Cherry Station, this could be a cool compromise, is to have a direct streetcar service to Union Station. So having tracks designed this way would allow that. Not that that's necessarily the intention. They're probably just putting them there so they can move streetcars around. But I like that this is an option. It's pretty cool to see that you'd be able to do a lot of different service patterns potentially. Straight up Cherry Street, Union to Cherry, Union to Distillery. If we put a loop in Distillery somewhere, but this time facing south, could have some cool new services. Just scrolling through this quickly. I will say Waterfront Toronto has really cool presentations. They're super detailed. More stuff about, and just to show you that this is not LRT, notice these old Toronto streetcars that are operating here. Clearly that's not LRT, right? Those are CLRVs. Oh wow, and they're literally referencing the Eglinton Crosstown, which again I covered in a video, and the grass that it was used there, which is awesome to see. Like when you build something in your local area, in your city, this is what you're enabling, right? You're enabling future projects in your city to say, hey, look at this. I mean, it's not like 100,000 networks in Europe, such as in Bordeaux and Le Mans and Berlin, we're not already doing this. But now that we have a local example, suddenly we seem to care. So this is cool to see. Also, oh, it looks so good. So this is showing the network potential for up to 2.6 kilometers of green track, and they're saying how it's more resilient. So this is actually awesome, representing 46% of the new track length. Really awesome. Wow. No, this is great. Though it is interesting that they can't do the loop as green track. I'm not sure what the reason for that would be, but still, this is really cool. Wow, this is actually so cool. So before, one of the things that has constantly been said is you can't do green track if you want to use it with emergency vehicles. But this is talking about at least reinforced green track, which someone mentioned before in a live stream, I think, about how you, or in a comment on that video, how you could do this by putting this sort of plastic grid or this sort of grid material in your green track. Then your fire trucks and ambulances can still use the right of way to drive on. That is really cool that Waterfront Toronto included that. Or whoever was working with Waterfront Toronto, kudos to them. I think it was maybe like some engineering firm, but this is pretty cool. It's a more detailed look at, those are nice separated cycleways, so I like to see that. Super zoomed in. Okay, and we are done. So there, you don't have to deal with me musing on Toronto specific waterfront stuff. Let me scroll up, and I'm gonna go through. I'll go through these chats. If you have questions about the channel, questions about 50,000, questions about anything, the move, let me know now. I'm gonna go through all the chat messages, and then once I'm done that, probably shut things down since I've been streaming for a pretty long time. Before I get into that, I should say, what's I gotta say? I was gonna say something. Before I get into that, as always, reminder, the next stream is linked in the description to this stream, so if you want to watch it, cool opportunity. The next thing to say is, if you aren't, consider supporting on Patreon and YouTube memberships, because it helps a ton. If you wonder why I mention it multiple times per stream, people like watch a short period of the stream, so if you've seen me mention that multiple times, sorry, but most people don't watch the whole length of the stream. If you are, kudos to you. I actually appreciate that a lot. It's how I support the channel, so it's important. I won't. So actually, I'm curious. Since this is a bit of a conversation, what do people think about advertising on my YouTube videos? Like, how do you feel about the fact, like, me doing sponsor spots? And what do you think about the trade-offs between sponsor spots and non-sponsor videos and things like that? I wouldn't ever work with a company that I don't like, but I'm still curious what my audience thinks about it. And I don't know, like, should I make it like a Patreon goal? Because I do have Patreon and stuff. Should I make it a goal that someday on Patreon, like if I reach this level of support, I don't ever have ads in videos? Let me know what you think. Not like integrations. YouTube ads still going to be a thing. Yeah, let me know. But I'm going to have a drink and then I'm going to go through the chat. Delicious. Okay. How was meeting Michael from Donnie Live? It was super cool. Michael was a super nice guy, and yeah, it was just fun riding the GO train. It was a good experience. What's the biggest failing of last mile connections in Canada? It's an interesting question. Just thinking. Unionville Coast Station. That's the worst one. Last time I saw you were at 30,000. Oh, well, yeah, I've grown a lot. It's been pretty cool. Please make a video about Munich. I will definitely make a video about Munich. Just gotta wait till the time. I don't like the name streetcar. Checkbox about showing the cursor when setting the source. Yeah, I'm gonna learn more about OBS over time. Hopefully this stream has been like pretty high quality, and hopefully the fact that I'm standing, has been cool. I'm gonna keep streaming, and over time, I will slowly improve the production quality. I will learn more about OBS and improve things, but thank you for mentioning. Featuring a window in a cutout was a big step for me. OBS is a little intimidating, even as someone who literally has a degree in computer science. What do you mind about monorails for mass transit? I just don't think it's when it's brought Ogdenville and North Haverbrook onto the map. Oh my goodness, I should have known that it was satire from the beginning. Anyone talking about monorails, unironically, it must be satire. Okay. Scrolling. Truly major hub, makes sense to cover. I missed the SD160. I don't miss them too much. I like ropeways. I think they're good. And is there any other transit method for cities on hills? Watch my unusual trains video. I talk about funiculars on that, and that is another good option for hilly areas. Also, rubber tire trains, maybe. That's another thing I did a video on. It's great having enough videos that I can just say, I did a video on that. You should check that out. And I talked about it there. Do you have plans on addressing other metro systems in Latin America? Absolutely. There are so many I want to talk about. The only limit is time, and yeah, I mean, I will cover B-level cities in every country in the world, as long as YouTube is a sustainable thing for me in the long term. I'll be talking about small Brazilian cities and small cities in Argentina and all of that. I'll talk about the other metro system in Chile. I will talk about all of these things. As long as YouTube is still a thing, it will be coming at some point. Toronto's Union Station is sort of more like two buildings linked together. I don't know if I would say that. It's just one giant complex in my eyes. Cool to hear the Parramatta Light Rail is making so much progress. Yeah, it would be an interesting project for them to refer to. How do you mow the grass? I think it's sort of cut back by the trains, but there may have specialized mowers that I'm unaware of. I love it when Milan installs these greenways. I love when anywhere installs them. Yes, just transit naming would be an interesting topic. I don't actually agree that green track is a waste of money. I mean, it's slightly better air quality. It handles sound better, so reduces the sound from the vehicles a bit. Again, it retains water better actually than concrete. So no, I don't think it's a waste of money. I don't think things that look good are a waste of money. If it makes transit more attractive, it's a serious thing that we should be considering. Great stream as always. Bye. Well, goodbye to you as well. Have you seen the new development proposal near Downzoo TTC? Yes, and I'm gonna make a note to do a video on that. It's interesting. Yep, definitely we'll talk about that in the future at some point. By the way, if you just joined, I linked my, I think it's the 50,000 subscriber video or the I don't remember what video it was. I linked a video that's in the pinned comment. I also linked the form, the Q&A form for 50,000. So you can definitely put things in there, though some people are just putting the same messages they've sent in the chat, which isn't necessarily necessary. Have you seen the... Okay, no, I just read that. Yeah, different plants instead of grass are also an option. They can be a better option in case. Los Angeles is seething with urban jealousy at Toronto. I don't know if you should. Do you think it'll be possible to see grass on a light rail? Not sure what the question necessarily is. CLRV is not light rail. I think it is light rail, basically. Let me scroll up. Indeed, the CLRV was tried in Boston at one point. Semi-permeable pavers are such a good thing, and we do definitely need them way more widely. They look better too, in my opinion. Especially better than asphalt. No, I think CLRV is still light rail. I think trams are light rail. I think they're all the same thing. What do you think about transit for the poor mindset in America and Brunei? I don't know why it's necessarily these two countries, but I think it's a bad approach. Transit should be for everyone. I did a video about monorails, so I recommend checking that out for my thoughts. How hard would it be to convert Eglinton to high floor? Basically, not that hard, but in North America, very hard, because we're not very good at this sort of engineering work. Would it be worth it? Honestly, in my opinion, probably. Which is probably a controversial opinion, but I think it would be worth it. I think that line needs capacity. Thanks for the stream. Will you do a live stream setup video for the 50,000 sub special? If I do, I'll do it because I know someone suggested it. I'll probably do that as like a B channel video. That's the type of thing that makes more sense on the B channel. But yeah, make sure you're subscribed to that because I'll probably do it. Should we support you on Patreon or YouTube memberships? Let's just say, send me a message if you're curious about that. That's all I'm going to say. I like ads where it's cities advertising themselves. Sponsor spots are good. Just make sure there's a clear distinction between ad and not. Yeah, that's super important. I don't like the kind of like sponsored video where the whole video is kind of just an advertisement. I think that's kind of a dubious area to be in. So not a fan of those. But yeah, it is also worth mentioning that like sponsors are great. They help me make more videos and help me like make this a sustainable thing that can maybe one day be a full-time job. And when it becomes that, more videos, better quality, so much is possible. Do whatever works with you. Just do what you got to do. Personally, I don't like ads, but since it's your revenue, sponsors are fine as long as they're not. Okay. Thoughts on naming sponsorships of rail lines like UC San Diego Blue Line? You know, at the end of the day, I think it's not the end of the world as long as it's done tastefully. That's generally how I approach things like this. Well, I'm very touched that people seem to generally be supportive of the idea of sponsorships. I'm not necessarily saying I don't want to do super long sponsorships, ideally in the future, and I don't want to do them on every video, but they are helpful. And, you know, again, I wouldn't work with a company or organization that I don't think is creating something good. So, you guys are so supportive. It is deeply appreciated, to be honest. I liked your climate change Rust Belt video. I don't think that was my video. Someone says, I use YouTube Premium. Does that help? It actually does. If you use YouTube Premium, which I use myself, because I think it's actually a good product, it really helps. It's something worth considering. I'm not actually really an advocate for using ad block on YouTube for obvious reasons, because it would hurt my ability to make videos. But consider turning ad block off if you have it. Turn it off for YouTube, or consider supporting not just my channel, but other channels you like in other ways if you do use ad block, because ads are a big way that people fund their YouTube. And I know a lot of people use ad block. I use it, just not on things like YouTube, because it actually is super important to me that especially individual creators, you know, not giant companies, but individual creators are actually supported via ads. So YouTube Premium is a great option, actually, that helps people, and it's a great experience for you because you don't have ads, right? But, you know, do what you can at the end of the day. What do you think about the Chicago L7000s? Not a big fan. I'm going to do a video about them, but I just think Chicago has so much potential that is sort of unmet, and the new trains are just so bleh. So someone appearing. Let's just say I think Chicago has a lot of potential that's sort of lost, and I don't think the 7000 series cars are that modern and that impressive, and I wish they were. I'll definitely do a video on railways in Israel at some point. They're interesting. You mentioned a gaming channel or content before. What games would you be interested in playing on videos like that? I don't think I'll do a gaming channel necessarily, though that might be something I do on the B channel, but like City Skyline, stuff like that, I find that interesting. BTS, confused with the BTS one. I'm not sure what you're referring to. That said, you know, I don't have a gaming device. So here's an interesting note to make. Streaming games could be an interesting thing to do. There is a problem though. First of all, I don't have a PC. I am fully Mac now, which is unusual for me. I've had a lot of gaming PCs in the past. I love building PCs. I was on Android. I'm now on iPhone. I'm fully Apple now. Apple is awesome, but it's not awesome for games. So what I would love to have is like a PS5 or a Series X or something like that. I could stream Flight Simulator or Train Simulator or City Skylines or just other games if people are interested in just, I don't know, I play games, you can stare at game while I talk about transit. Maybe that's something that could happen in the future. The problem is that for me to game, I would need to get like a cam link and a console. But consoles are impossible to get right now unless you go to scalpers. So frustrating, I know, but that's sort of my situation. Will you do a video on, it sounds like Mumbai local transit? Yeah, at some point. Why don't you use your Shure microphone in videos? I see it behind you in videos, and it seems odd not to use such an expensive microphone. Well, sorry, coughing. When I'm making videos, I like to be a bit more dynamic, and using a mic like this, it just makes it a bit hard. My audio quality, let's be honest, is not as good on stream as it is in videos, and I like using a live because it allows me to go all over the place like this, something which I can't do with just the desktop microphone. I do use it for voiceover and stuff though, so it gets a lot of use and it's gonna last a long time. So maybe someday I'll use it to make videos more generally, but yeah, I just like the flexibility of lav. What do you think about first class on metros? I don't like it. Is there a place in Toronto you think LRT would make sense and improve a community? Yeah, dense places like potentially the Waterfront and downtown. What transport makes sense? And the shoulders of downtown. Areas north of downtown that used to have a lot of streetcar lines like DuPont and Rogers Road and all of these places could be really good places to reinstate streetcars. What transport makes sense for small cities? Context is super important. Some small cities could actually justify rail. I think Lausanne has like 100,000 people and it has a metro, right? It just depends on the context. Buses in most cases though. What are your opinions on Israeli railways? Not going to share too many right now, but maybe in a future video. Let me scroll up. Would buses not be adequate? Depends. Sorry. Is there a difference between Avenue Road, Street, Drive, and all the other names for streets? That's a good question. I think maybe in some in some places like avenues are east-west, streets are north-south, something like that. I believe. Yeah, that's the case in parts of Metro Vancouver, for example, but it really depends on the location. Should all of the New York City transit be merged? Possibly. It's an interesting idea. Are there other lines besides the Canada line that run high frequencies on sections of single track? Interesting question. Probably other light metro. There's probably a few other light metros that do so, yes. The DLR does, for example. Video on Mumbai Suburban Rail, yep, again, but I'm just spacing videos out. I'm not gonna make like 10 videos on India in a row because that would mean that people from other places would be like, why are you not making videos about my place? But also because ideally production value improves over time. So actually you should want me to wait as long as possible to make a video about any place, because say I did a video 3 years ago on location X. If you had to wait 3 years, yes, that's not great. But first of all, way more people will see it, so more people will learn about your transit system, which is great, but also the quality will be better. So there's a trade-off, but I think waiting is worth it. Who's still here after all of that? I'm not sure after all of what. We know you won't compromise on video quality. We're not against sponsorships. Super appreciated. Yeah, when they create geographic confusion, that is a bad thing. But that's more of a transit sponsorship thing. What do you think about running hourly passenger service on a busy freight line? Well, if you can run some passenger service, you should try to do so. I'm a premium subscriber to access YouTube Music. Well, thank you for doing so. Thoughts on maglev? Are they feasible in Toronto? Probably not. Probably not a good idea. You and Johnny Strides should make a video together. I'm not sure Johnny Strides watches my videos or even knows about my channel. So maybe, but I'm not sure. Then I do watch his videos though. The Narwhal article today, Metrolink's plans for Ontario Line have led to mistrust in affected Toronto communities. I think a lot of the controversy about the Ontario Line is sort of overblown. Given the nature of your channel, you will love Transport Fever 2. I do love Transport Fever 2. I actually played it a long time ago, but I played it a lot. It is an awesome game. What do you think of using 115-year-old trains for commercial service? Hey, if they still work, why not? Does Singapore deserve commuter rail? I don't like using the word deserve. What urban planning channels do you enjoy? I think there are so many interesting channels out there on YouTube, but I'm not sure this is the best place to advertise them. I really like what Not Just Bikes did when he reached 1,000 subscribers. You know what? With Not Just Bikes, I would say Not Just Bikes is a bit of a controversial figure, but I have met him in real life. I have talked to him a fair bit. I'm not buddies with him or whatever, like I just don't know him that well. But when I met him and when I've talked to him, he's actually a really nice guy, and his actions show me he's a nice person. So whether or not you like or agree with what he says, and I definitely disagree with him sometimes, but I also think he makes a lot of great points. And when I first found a lot of his videos, especially like garbage in Amsterdam, things like that, like just things you don't even think about existing in North America or in a lot of places in the world, I thought, wow, it is so fantastic that someone is talking about this stuff. And so, yeah, no one asked me what I thought about Not Just Bikes, but I'm kind of going on a tangent. Anyways, Not Just Bikes did a really awesome thing when he reached 100,000 subscribers, and he shouted out a ton of other YouTubers. And you know what? I was one of the people he shouted out, but beyond that, I actually think that was a super solid thing to do, because he's basically saying like, oh, I've been successful. Let me try to pass on the success to other people that I like videos from. And I thought that was a super cool move, and I would love to do something similar when I reach 100,000 subscribers. My videos when I reach subscriber milestones are always super long, and I just self-reflect and stuff. So I'm not necessarily saying I would do what he did and make a full, just the whole video is that, but like maybe the first 10 minutes could be 10 minutes of an hour could be that, and I think that would be cool. Your B channel video on the new MacBook Pros was really interesting to watch. It's cool when you talk about topics other than transit. Thank you so much. That is what the B channel is for. So if you enjoy it, you know, share the videos to people and the like. The B channel is never going to be, well, I shouldn't say never, but for now is never going to be, for now, will not be as highly produced as the main RMTransit channel. But that's sort of the point. I can make more videos, I can be a bit more casual, and I can talk about things I'm interested in. I actually know a fair bit about technology between school and between just having loved technology for a long time. So it is a topic I probably should talk about more on YouTube. It's kind of crazy how many tech people on YouTube, and don't want to be too controversial, but there's a lot of tech people on YouTube who are surprisingly not necessarily that technically informed about technology, and it kind of comes through in videos when they talk about things in sort of a way that you know they're being very hand wavy, or they don't necessarily know fully about like what the difference between this CPU architecture and this CPU architecture is. So I find that interesting. Do you think if cars had not been invented, we would ride around in mini light rail vehicles? Possibly. Toronto wanted avenues to be major streets. This is a good point, but there are many historical inconsistencies. Yeah, high-speed rail connections throughout Malaysia could be valuable. yeah, Delhi Metro has some crazy long lines. Like the yellow line is like also like 50 kilometers long. Um, I really wish I could travel right now because it would be cool to go to places like Delhi, Tokyo, Shanghai, all of these places, um, and visit and film because like the quality of video I can make from afar versus the quality I can make when I actually visit and I film tons of stuff is very different. How about Indonesian suburban and commuter rail? It's an interesting topic. Is it costly to double track main lines for freight and passenger service? It shouldn't be. Are you going to talk about Singapore's bus network and its integration with other transport modes? Probably at some point, yeah. It's an interesting network, lots of double deckers. Do you make subways in Minecraft? I don't play Minecraft, but when I was much younger, I did, and yes, I did. Do you ever do fictional transit planning? Honestly, I'm not much into fantasy transit maps. I only like it to the extent that I can look at an existing system and kind of slightly expand it. You know, be realistic. When I see like super unrealistic plans of what transit could look like in one place or another, I just think it's like it's not helpful because you're just being, you're making this unrealistic plan that we're never going to actually see. So that's my thinking. The volume of the stream is a tad low. You're a little late to the party on that. Hopefully, I think you probably should need to turn your volume up because I think I turned it up fairly high now. Anyways, wow, we're at the end of the stream for today. It's almost been 2 hours. It's really long. You say you need to outsource your B-roll both to fans of the channel and Fiverr. Okay, so this is actually a very good point. And before I actually finish the stream today, again, set a reminder for the next stream. It's been a long one. Probably the longest stream yet. Maybe the longest stream yet. You need to outsource outsourcing B-roll. So I like the idea. Here's the problem. So first of all, outsourcing to Fiverr, as much as it seems like a good idea, it's expensive. And I don't want to sound cheap, but I definitely don't make enough money on YouTube where just general purpose outsourcing of B-roll can make sense. Like I hate to say it, but I just do not make enough money on YouTube for that to be something that would really be possible. And I don't want to pay some very low cost to people to film videos. I would want to pay someone a good price. If I can't, I don't want to pay them. I don't want to pay anyone because I want to pay people a fair wage if they're going and filming stuff, etc. So that Fiverr option is limiting. Now the fan option also is an interesting option. The problem is that the quality can be inconsistent, and I'm not blaming people. I appreciate when people send me footage a ton. The problem is it's a lot harder to maintain your sort of quality on your channel because the quality can be mixed. It's not people's fault, right? They're just trying to help. But I have good cameras. I have a lot of practice filming, so it's kind of a toss up. Like if you have someone that's really good at shooting, that's great, but just not always going to be like that. So that's a struggle, and then licensing is a struggle. It's great if people can upload stuff as Creative Commons. It's great, but it's kind of stressful. Every time I do something with someone where it talks about creating B-roll, I have to explain if we're going to do B-roll, since I think you should just upload as Creative Commons, and I use Creative Commons clips. It helps everyone in the community who wants to make videos or wants to make content. I think that's a good approach. The problem is it just takes a lot of explaining and what is Creative Commons and why does licensing matter and all of these things. So B-roll is a stressful, complicated topic. And for me, since YouTube is something I see as long-term, and I said this in many videos, I have to make sure I'm properly licensing footage, because if I don't, then it creates a lot of risk for me with my videos. I make a video, it could get taken down, it could get demonetized or whatever. So I'm careful, and I also believe that people take clips and they don't want to freely license it. You cannot just use their footage, right? A lot of my videos are Creative Commons because I use Creative Commons stuff, and I know they don't always include new footage, but some of them do, and some of them include stuff. But I don't appreciate if someone uses my footage without at least asking me. In the same way, I wouldn't use other people's footage without asking. So I wish I had more B-roll, but I need to find a good system for getting it, and I don't think there's a perfect system I've heard of yet. Fiverr is interesting, but expensive. Fans are interesting, but inconsistent. All of it is interesting, but hard to license, which is why filming stuff myself is always going to be probably my preference. But I'm slowly working my way through things. Are you in Toronto right now? Of course, I live in Toronto. So you may have well seen me on the subway. It's possible. I do ride around transit quite a bit. For folks that are in Toronto, maybe I'll do meetup at some point. I've discussed doing one. There might be one in November, possibly, maybe. So if you're interested in those sort of things, get on the Discord server, send me a message on there, and we can chat. Or actually, maybe send me an email. That's easier. Do you think interstate highways should have a lane for cyclists? I don't think it's super helpful. I mean, maybe, but it's loud, it's polluted, it's not a comfortable place to ride, so it's not necessarily the greatest thing. 90% of metros in India is funded by Japan. That's so interesting, but kudos to Japan and kudos to India for building metros. I think everyone's winning there. What is your opinion on the Mexico City elevated trolley bus? I'm actually planning on doing that second Mexico City video this month, so maybe I'll talk about it then. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Have you ever gotten recognized in public? Many times. Yes, it's a pretty frequent occurrence now. Anyways, that's it for today's stream. It's been a long one, almost 2 hours long. Thank you for coming out and watching. It's super appreciated and fun to hang out with people who watch the channel on a regular basis. But yeah, thanks for watching. I think that's the end of today's stream. Should you capture some footage of that? Yes, please actually do that, because that would be super helpful. Mexico City, another place with less footage than I would like.